Hey guys, how you guys doing? We are back with some more Blade and Soul, and this time we'll be talking about important stats in PvP, which is personally one of my favorite things to do in Blade and Soul. Now, there are three stats that you really want to go in depth to in PvP, and we'll be talking about it today on the episode here. Okay, so if you guys are wondering that if your headsets are working correctly, they are working correctly. I just sound like I'm half dead, mainly because if you guys can't tell, I'm sick right now. So, but to me it doesn't matter. I just want to make this video because I, like making videos for you guys. And so, let's go ahead and jump right into it here. So, the most important stat, as you guys can see here, that I do not have it on, is piercing. Now, I have fused all of my soul shield with piercing. If you guys want to know how to infuse, check out the last video where I tell you exactly where and how to get infusions. But I have infused piercing into every single one of my PvP soul shields, except my PvE ones, which I'm trying to re-roll to get the PvE ones. A little bit unfortunate because I haven't been able to roll for one in like quite a long time. Anyways, with that being said, piercing is going to be our best friend, because piercing allows us to cut through people's defense, and it allows us to cut through people's block, or auto block as we call it in Blade and Soul, and it allows us to cut through crit defense. The three stat I just mentioned there, piercing will literally cut through it. It is really powerful. So let me put on my PvP accessories, and we can move on here. So if I have my PvP loadout, this will look something like this, right? So this is what it'll somewhat look like if I have my PvP loadout. So as you guys can see, our crit went down to the bottom of hell, and so did our accuracy, so did our additional damage, and everything else with it. And that includes ice damage or elemental damage as well. Now, I feel like elemental damage in PvP is really non-essential, mainly because, again, you have piercing, because piercing is super duper powerful, right? Piercing allows you to cut through people's defense, and when you cut through their defense, they're vulnerable, right? And that means when you stun an enemy, this stat over here called debuff damage will activate. And so when I stun an enemy, right, and I press my 4, okay, it's gonna do 30% more damage. Okay, now that's what debuff defense or debuff damage does. And so what this allows you to do is when you press your stun, you press 4, this here activates, this here activates. And so what it does is that it kills their defense. If you have around 5,000, yes, I say 5,000 is a great number for piercing. And so if you have over 5k piercing, this is great. This is phenomenal. Like, it'll cut through people's defense, it'll cut through their block. And especially here, when you approach an enemy that has block, your piercing will actually cut through this as well. So the auto block that people have, or sometimes just block your attack for free, that's what piercing is able to do. So instead of them getting a free auto block, right, you're instead just gonna like break right through that, and you're gonna go through their block, which is quite nice. And we'll be talking about block in a little bit here, but we're talking about piercing and how awesome it is. Piercing also allows you to cut through crit defense. Now, crit defense is very good, mainly because crit defense allows you to survive certain hits, because when in PvP, you're not going to crit all that much, because as you can see here, I went from having PvE soul shields to have like around 59-60% to have basically no crits. So what happens is that when you PvP, you're not going to be critting a lot. You're probably going to be doing a lot of white damage. White damage is damage that are not critical damage, and so it's a lot less. However, your white damage is probably going to be around like 20k, 40k, 50k, mainly because you're not fighting bosses, right? The players in Blade and Soul only like the majority of the players only have about 300k to the higher end of 400k HP. I personally don't have enough HP right now because we're going to talk about points, okay? Points are very important as well. So when you fight other players, they're usually going to have around 400k to 300k, and if you're fighting a warden, around 500k to you know, like a minimum 400k, max at around 600k HP. So it's not gonna be, you know, it's not gonna be like too hard for you to kill someone, mainly because their HP is a lot less, and you don't need a crit. Like, your white damage alone will absolutely obliterate them if you have enough piercing. And so keep in mind, alright, piercing is your most important stat. That's why I have fused every single one of these things, because, you know, again, cuts through defense, cuts through auto block, cuts through crit defense. That's why it's the most important. And accessories that can give you piercing is the necklace. The necklace is one of the most important accessories. The new one is as well, because the new one has a ton of piercing, and this is probably the first accessory that I would level up. As if you guys are starting to PvP, this is the one that I would level up, because this thing allows you to have a lot of piercing. So as you guys can see here, the effect can stack up 5 times, and during the effect you get 400 piercing. That's 2,000 piercing. That's a lot of piercing. That's about 20% more piercing on you. So that's really high. Okay. Keep in mind that you also get a base piercing of 940 for. You also get some crit, crit damage. And why did my daily dash just pop up for no reason? I did not click it. What the hell, mate? Again, so this would be the first thing I level up, okay? Because piercing is very important. Second thing is your defense and crit defense. Now, crit defense and defense are two different things, okay? They're not the same. Your defense is how many hits your character can take, and your crit defense, what it does is that it mitigates the amount of critical hits you take if you were to take it, okay? So it also mitigates damage. It also mitigates the critical damage that you take. So for example, if somebody crits 90k on me, they're actually only gonna crit about 10k because of the damage reduction from crit defense. That's the whole point of having crit defense, is to mitigate the damage from critical hits. Okay, so that's the main thing. If you have enough piercing, you just go right through it. Okay, and so that's the main reason why a lot of players, if you look at the high ladder ranking, they have around 5,500 to 5,000 piercing. This is not enough piercing. When I eat a spicy dumpling, I get around 1,400. Not 1,400. I get around 4,000 some piercing, which is not enough, but I feel like it's enough. Okay. However, I will be fusing more piercing into my soul shields later on. Okay, so let's move on from piercing to defense and crit defense. So defense and crit defense are two of the stats that will allow you to survive a little bit higher, and there's only 2 items in your whole kit or your whole character slot that actually matter, and that's your pet and your belt. Your belt is going to give you the standard belt at stage 3 is like good enough. I upgraded mine to stage 7 because I feel like I should max everything out, because, you know, I like maxing things out. But if you can, it's better to actually upgrade your pet, because your pet gives you not only a higher HP recovery, it also gives you a lot of HP, it also gives you crit defense, and it also gives you a shield at Unleash Ultimates, and that shield is super duper strong. Even though most people say it's not that strong, it's good. All right, having a shield is absolutely amazing. Okay, so also keep that in mind. So pet and belt is gonna be your main things for defense and crit defense if you're gonna be wanting to upgrade those. Other than that, your defense and crit defense can be upgraded through soul shield, like I said, and you have to roll for these once again. The rolls, however, I think the rolls for the new soul shield, the perfect ones are block and crit defense are actually the best one, because like I feel like defense don't really mean anything if they have enough piercing, you know, because piercing mitigates so much of that defense. It's absolutely insane. And so, you know, my 2, my 3, and my 4 needs to be rerolled. But my 5, I feel like it's good enough because it has critical and crit defense on it. And of course, we fuse piercing. Alright, so we're going to talk about block now. So because I feel like crit defense and defense aren't really, you know, a big topic. I would say if you want to reroll some of your PvE soul shields for block, it's actually really good, because I know for a lot of characters, or a lot of classes, they do use some of their PvE soul shields in order to PvP. And so if you can actually roll for block, it's really good. And if you have a good enough block, you can just run in there and get like a free auto block, which is actually pretty hilarious when it happens. Now if you have enough piercing, you know, it'll just go right through it. But having an auto block to save your life is sometimes really life-saving, and it does happen. Like, I've seen it happen. It's like freaking some players just have like an insane amount of block, right? And they just go absolutely ham on that. And so the cool part is sometimes that you'll get lucky, and therefore you'll live. Okay, this is an auto block. Okay, that has a chance of happening. So the block rate for me right now is 30%. But if I put this soul shield on, I have a number 7 here with critical and block. This gives me about 5% here. Alright, VT gives me like 5%, so it's absolutely insane. So if I were to put this here, this would be around 36%, and I'm going to try to get my 8. So we're going to try to get another 5%, so that'll bring us up to about 41%, and that should be good enough. And that'll be nice, because what auto block does is that you can actually run in there, and if the enemies do, let's say that a warlock uses tether blade, right, and your character can actually just, you know, bring up their sword and just auto block it, which is absolutely hilarious, because like you get to 1, mitigate a CC, 2, not waste an iframe, and number 3, after that, you can immediately go into attacking without wasting an iframe. And I feel like not wasting an iframe is really good, and in a certain PvP situation here. So there's one more stat that I say that could work, but not really, because certain classes, like for me, right, for me as a warrior, you do want a lot of recovery, and you want a lot of health regen, because what happens is that you're going to be using your health as, you know, your source of attack. So therefore, you actually want to have a lot of health regen. So this will be a good segue to go into Hanwoo points. So 20 points into offense, like always, and depending on what game mode I play, for example, if I'm playing Whirlwind, I will put 50 points into defense, and I'll put 25 points into health regen. What this does is that it allows me to regen 6,000 HP every single second, and that allows me to continue fighting on. And with the added effect of recovery 6% on HP, 6% HP on resist, 3-second cooldown, that allows me to stay alive much longer in Whirlwind than in you know, a certain situation. Same thing for Nova Corps. This is my same setup, but on Beluga, since we're capturing horns and we need to go really fast, right, I will actually, instead of having 50 points, because in Beluga it's not about how long you can live, it's about capturing the horns, because if you capture 3 horns, you get a free win. Alright, you get a free win regardless of how many points you have. So in Beluga, I will actually put points into movement speed. And so what this happens is that even though I lose the set bonus of having, you know, more HP recovery, I'll be able to move at 25% faster. And if you put into account of, you know, dashes, you know, SS giving you 30% more movement speed, Juggernaut giving you another 30%, which is quite nice. And so if you add it with this buff here will give you 50% movement speed, and when you're running 50% movement speed, you can get away. All right, you can run. You can run like the wind. All right, so that's the major difference between some of the modes. I've been testing out on some of the debuff here, and I feel like this is kind of a waste, mainly because I really don't care about this too much, right? Because if I look at my, you know, defense here, I have a little bit less HP. I have like about 10k less HP, but this is around 500k HP. I'm not going to do the math. I'm too lazy to actually do that right now, and plus I don't feel well. And so I have about, you know, 500k HP. This allows me to probably 1v1 somebody and probably live and win. Like, having this much HP is probably gonna allow me to like just, you know, kill somebody or kill a couple people at the same time, which is really awesome, because that's, you know, one of the perks of being a warrior, is because you have a lot of HP, you can tank a lot of hits, and you have this, you have the skills to actually, you know, your V skill gives you the ability to stay alive a lot longer, which is quite nice, and your Sheer Storm as well, because they give 70% damage reduction. So in PvP, these stats, piercing especially, is very important, and for warrior is very important to have recovery, at least how I feel. But for every single class, if you just put, you know, piercing into every single one of your soul shield, you should do fine. It doesn't really matter what kind of stats you have on your soul shield, because most of the stats here don't really matter. Like, you know, evasion, block, you know, damage reduction, like that doesn't really matter too much in PvP, right? It's whoever can one-shot each other first, so that's why piercing is super important. Last but not least, let's talk about set bonus. So in PvP, you're gonna want to have certain set bonus, right? And as you guys can see here, I have, you know, a 5 set bonus on my PvP accessories. These set bonus come in quite handy, because without them, 1, I would lose 40k HP and 40 AP. 2, I would lose more like 60, because if we counted the PvP attack power, right? So 60 AP, 40k HP, and I also get an extra 1,000 health regen. This extra 1,000 health regen, again, allows your character to survive a lot longer, and to be able to get back into the battlefield a lot faster. It also gives you a slight touch of crit defense and PvP defense as well, which I feel like it's not that important, but it's there and it can save your life. Okay, so that's the only thing that I feel like is important in PvP, and your points, right? Depending on what you play is it's all up to you. The one of the last few things that I really want to emphasize is your weapon. Your weapon in PvP will do a lot more damage than PvE, because in PvE I say that your accessories are gonna be the one that's gonna carry you. No, you know, in PvE, that's why I say in PvE, right? Because your accessories are the one carrying your buffs and debuffs. But in PvP, your weapon can do a lot, right? It has a really strong buff, and especially if you're Incinerator, Incinerator allows you to do a lot more damage, just because the buff is long. Like the buff, I believe, let me see, is 18 seconds, and it also gives your tab a 20-second reduction, which is quite nice. 20% reduction, which is about, let me see if I can find it here, which is tab, which is 28 seconds instead of 35 seconds, which is quite nice. Having a tab escape with cooldown reduction is really good, and during a PvP fight, you're probably going to be able to get about 2-3 tabs if you can manage your tabs or manage your escapes wisely. Okay, so that comes in all experience. But with that being said, guys, those were the important stats of PvP. If you guys learned something, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because I'm planning to have a lot more videos and a new series coming up right up. Okay, so with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll be seeing you guys on the next time in Blade and Soul. See you guys then.